Well, happy Tuesday morning to you. Welcome in to another day of Morning JOX here on JOX 94.5. Conrad Van Order, Damian Mitchell here with you for the next hour as we recap what you may have missed overnight and get you set for the first day of the SEC baseball tournament in Hoover. Yes, it is finally here. I was out at the Hoover Met yesterday. Pat Smith and I out there, we were getting our credentials and just taking some pictures, going and checking everything out before all the fans flood in today. And not to say that I should be surprised, Damien, I'm sure you won't be either. There was a LSU tailgate going live, just hanging out, eating, drinking.
Setting the tone.
Middle of the afternoon yesterday, a full, 2 days before they're even going to play. They don't even play until Friday, and LSU fans are already here yesterday. Hanging out, setting up the tailgate. But again, that's just how they do it down there in the bayou.
Absolutely,
right?
It's a party, man. It's a whole week event. And I remember last year when I came up to the SEC tournament, and I looked, just walking into the Hoover Met, and there's a couple of LSU fans like, oh, they're having a good time, and then a couple feet up the way, I'm like, oh, this is a party. Like, this is a legit party going on right outside the stadium. And I mean, full bar, they have food, the grill's going up. I was like, okay, I see how y'all do. I was unfamiliar with your game. I thought y'all only did this for football. This is a year-round thing.
Yeah, no, they absolutely have a good time with it. And so there's going to be a lot of, I would imagine, a lot of LSU fans, probably a number of Texas fans, some Vanderbilt fans, Arkansas. All of those schools going to be at the top there as far as the seating goes, so we'd expect to see a lot of them. But we do have games that start today, of course, as we get through the action, and some pretty good ones today. Of course, starting off, I know a lot of you probably going to try to be out there for Alabama as they will kick off the tournament for us in just right around 3.5 hours from right now. 9:30 first pitch there at the Hoover Met is Alabama will take on Missouri. That's going to be your first game of the day. Then following that, you're going to have Oklahoma taking on the Kentucky Wildcats. That'll be game 2 of the first session, just for, I guess whatever ticket you bought for what session. You're going to have 2 games in the first session, then they're going to break. Then we're going to come back at 4:30 this afternoon. We're going to have Florida versus South Carolina, and then the nightcap tonight, Mississippi State versus Texas A&M. The winner of that game, Mississippi State, Texas A&M, will advance to take on the Auburn Tigers tomorrow, because Auburn will have the late game on Wednesday. That'll be their first game since they are the 6th seed, so they got that first day bye. Alabama, the 9 seed, so they do not. So they will kick things off for us again at 9:30 against the Missouri Tigers. Alabama has won 10 straight games against Missouri going back to the 2018 season, so a hot streak right now for Alabama. Make that 11 today, hopefully. You have Tyler Fay, who's going to be on the bump for the Crimson Tide. He threw for a career-high 5 1/3 innings against the Tigers back on April 24th. He did, however, give up 5 runs in that game, but only 2 of them were earned. And on the other side, a name that's probably going to be familiar if you are a big college football fan, and of course you are because you're listening to us here on JOX 94.5, Sam Horn, the Missouri quarterback, going to be on the bump for the Tigers today. A little dual sport athlete there in Como, so he will be on the bump. He faced the Alabama Crimson Tide in a relief appearance back in April, and he threw 1 inning and gave up 5 earned runs. So good sign for Alabama. They certainly had his number last time he was on the mound, so hopefully that'll be the case for the Crimson Tide yet again today. So that's your pitching matchup, Tyler Fay versus Missouri's quarterback and pitcher, Sam Horn, on the bump there to start things off from Hoover. And then we will proceed through that. If Alabama were to advance today, or Missouri, whoever wins that one, they will face the Tennessee Volunteers tomorrow. So if you're an Alabama fan, you're like, man, can't get out to Hoover today because of the 9:30 first pitch. Maybe tomorrow. Well, it's going to be a 9:30 first pitch tomorrow as well. But if Alabama is able to advance past tomorrow's matchup against Tennessee, they would then get to play on Thursday at 3 p.m. So you would have an afternoon game, but you would also have to face the SEC champion Texas Longhorns in that spot. So going to be a difficult path for the Crimson Tide, certainly. If you look at the Auburn side of things, as we already said, they're going to get the winner of Mississippi State, Texas A&M tonight. And if Auburn wins that matchup tomorrow, then they will advance to take on the LSU Tigers on Friday. So going to be challenging, as we've discussed a little bit. It's like the basketball tournament, right? There's a compelling argument to be made that this might be more difficult than making it through to the College World Series and making it through that gauntlet just because of how deep the SEC is. But should be a really fun week in Hoover. Excited to get out there. I know a lot of you are going to be out there. I know me and Damien will be out there throughout the week. A lot of us here at JOX will be sure to be out there, and we hope to see you out there as well. So, again, 3 hours and 24 minutes away. First pitch, Alabama and Missouri there at the Hoover Met. So do want to get into some regional projections really quick. If you're wondering what comes after the SEC baseball tournament, there's going to be a lot of SEC flavor once you get past that into the, the official postseason of the college baseball season. So as of right now, 6 SEC teams slated to host regionals. You would have the Texas Longhorns, the Arkansas Razorbacks, the Vanderbilt Commodores, the Georgia Bulldogs, the Auburn Tigers, and the LSU Tigers would all be slated to host their regionals. You would also have Tennessee. They would be a 2 seed in the Atlanta regional for Georgia Tech. Let's see. You would have Oklahoma. They would be a 3 seed in Fort Worth, Texas at the TCU regional. You would have Ole Miss. They would be in the Southern Miss region, so right there in Hattiesburg. Don't have to go too far for the Rebels. Let's see. You have Florida there in North Carolina at Chapel Hill. That's where they're slated to go. Let's see. Alabama. They would be traveling to Clemson, South Carolina to that regional. You would have the Troy Trojans there in Auburn, as Auburn would host a regional. Troy would be in that group with them, along with Duke and Long Island. So maybe a little bit of revenge for basketball season on the docket there for the Auburn Tigers. And then you have Mississippi State. They would be in Tallahassee at the Florida State Regional. Kentucky, they'd be going to Conway, South Carolina. The Chanticleers of Coastal Carolina slated to host a regional. That's where you'll find the Kentucky Wildcats as things stand right now, and that will do it as far as the SEC goes. But how about, again, we keep talking about them. They keep popping up. Sacramento State, they're expected to make a regional. Just saying. They're
in everything school.
That you want to keep your eyes on an athletic department. Watch out for Sacramento State. They're
doing something right.
They've been making some noise this offseason. So that's where things currently stand right now as far as the postseason goes. Excited for a big week of baseball there in Hoover, Alabama. But we have a lot of other things to get to today as well, of course. We do have our Mount Rushmore. So if you've missed the show here for the past couple of weeks, me and Damien every day going through a different SEC program, giving you our Mount Rushmore, our top 4 players from that program that we have seen play with our own 2 eyes. And so many of you have been so great sending in all of your Mount Rushmores each and every day. And we want you to continue to do that today. 205-834-9450. You know our guy Lewis, he's already sent his in. He was ready before we even got on the air this morning. But today we're doing the Oklahoma Sooners, one of the most proud football programs in the entire country. One of the ones with the most historical relevance over the history of college football, and one of the newest members of the SEC as well, Damien. So,
did you already put John Mateer in?
No, we're going to wait until this year and see how that goes after they win the national championship, because that's how I've been talking about them. But no, we were talking before the show, and some more options with this one than maybe we had yesterday.
1,000%. And at multiple positions. You can have an argument that, when you start looking at the collection of talent that's ever played at Oklahoma, it's rich.
Yes.
It's rich.
They certainly have a lot to offer. And there's one guy I'm very interested to see if he's on your list or not. He is a current coach right now.
Does he coach college football?
Well, so he does. He does.
In the SEC?
In fact, he does. Yes.
Interesting.
So I know you're such a big fan. So we'll see if that undisclosed coach, I think a lot of you know who I'm probably alluding to, if he is on Damien's Mount Rushmore or not. But we will share ours. You get to share yours, and we all just start a conversation and kind of take a trip down memory lane of some of the greatest players to ever play this game of college football that we love so much. So we're going to have that coming up for you a little bit later in the show with the Oklahoma Mount Rushmore. We also had a very interesting story that or an article that came out yesterday by one David Hale. I know he's been on Mac and Cube a number of times, friend of the station here at JOX, and he broke down every college football program's quarterback situation into different tiers. So we have all the way at the top with, as you can imagine, your, Clemsons of the world, right? With Cade Klubnik, all the way down to, let's be honest, sorry, it is what it is, but your UABs of the world that are quite low on the list. And then you have Alabama and Auburn slotted, somewhere in the middle there. So some very fascinating breakdowns there of just kind of how he projects all of these quarterback situations across the country. So certainly want to take some time to get into that as well. We also have a rivalry in college football, not one here in the SEC, but a big one outside of our conference that may be going away. And why is that? And is there anything that we can do to maintain some of these bigger rivalries in college sports? So we'll tell you about all of that. We'll dive into some of these quarterback tiers. Of course, Oklahoma, Mount Rushmore coming up in the near future for you as well. So 205-834-9450. We want to hear from you. Going to take a quick break. Come back on the other side, dive into some college football news and notes on some of these college football quarterback tiers. You're listening to Morning JOX here on JOX 94.5. 6:15. Welcome back in. Morning JOX here on JOX 94.5. Conrad and Damian with you on this Tuesday morning. Appreciate you spending your Tuesday with us. Tuned in here. Hopefully you're going to make it out to Hoover for the SEC baseball tournament this weekend, getting underway in just a handful of hours there from the Hoover Met. But we do have some other excitement on the diamond tonight, and you'll be able to hear it here on JOX, and that, of course, is your Atlanta Braves, as they will get back in action tonight, traveling to face the Washington Nationals. But it's a big moment because Spencer Strider making his return from the IR for the Atlanta Braves tonight, expected to be on the bump. So Strider's made one start this season. He pitched 5 innings against Toronto back on April the 16th before tweaking his hamstring. He gave up 2 earned runs, had 5 strikeouts in that first start. So hoping to get back, not have any more setbacks, and be good to go for the rest of the way there for the Atlanta Braves. And if you missed the news yesterday or over the weekend, the expectation is that Ronald Acuna Jr. will rejoin the Braves and be ready to go on Friday as they will take on the San Diego Padres. So a big week for Braves fans. Strider coming back today, Acuna coming back hopefully this weekend, and you're over 500 right now, so hoping to keep those winning ways alive. And as I said, you can hear that here on JOX. All right, there was some college football news that we talked about before the break there, and that was a big rivalry outside of the SEC that appears to be going by the wayside, and that, Damian, would be the USC and Notre Dame rivalry. So just for you, and again, not the SEC, it's not Ohio State, Michigan, it's not Alabama, Auburn, it's not Texas, Oklahoma, whatever rivalries you want to throw in there, in my opinion. But where does this stand for you? Is this a game that you always look forward to every year, or is it just kind of it's cool that they play each other every year, but, it's not appointment viewing?
Yeah, it's kind of one of those just helmet games. You think of just the history of both schools, and they still continue the tradition of playing against each other. And, I mean, we've seen the highs, we've seen the lows for both schools at different times. But they have memorable moments against each other. You think of, when Matt Leinart, then the Bush push, situations like that. But I think that just for what these two brands bring to college football, it's one of those things you can't really deny. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say, I've locked into every single time they played. But for the most part, when they're both doing rather well, it's an entertaining watch. Because, again, it's something we've seen years upon years that, yeah, if it's on, I'm going to watch it. And sometimes I'll forget that, they are playing this weekend. It's usually I'll look at the schedule, and when it's on that weekend, I'm like, I forgot they play this weekend. Yeah. But most of the time, if it's on, I get a chance to, look at it a little bit. And just some of the players that have come through, that, the big-name guys that have played at both schools, I'm perfectly fine with it. But I wouldn't want it to go away. But you know how the nature of college football is now. It's, if it ain't bringing in no money, what's the point of us having it out there? So
yeah. So unfortunately, Pat Forty from from Sports Illustrated, he had a story out yesterday about this, and so essentially the final year of their contract that they have to play each other, it runs out this year. So this would be the final season. USC has offered a 1-year extension to Notre Dame to where they would play as well in 2026. But after that, it would kind of be left up in the air, and it's believed that USC would be happy to maybe just let that rivalry kind of go to the wayside, or at least for a little while, and that seems to have to do for USC at least. Notre Dame wants to continue. They want a long-term extension. They want this game to continue being played every year. But USC has claimed that the uncertainty of the college football playoff makes them not want to play in this game anymore, which, Damian, as we all know, that means they are soft, and they want to have an easier schedule and an easier path to a college football playoff, which, again, I understand from a business standpoint. I get it. But it's also easy for us on the, as the fans and the people that consume the sport to go, okay, so I understand where you're coming from, but I don't like that we're taking away quality matchups because
you're scared.
Let's be honest. USC has bigger problems than Notre Dame in terms of getting to a college football playoff.
Yeah, man. And, with conference realignment and, you could force Notre Dame's hand, but Notre Dame ain't gonna move. Like they are stuck in their ways unless you tell them that they can't make it to a college football playoff. That's the only reason why they would join a conference anyway. But I'm with you. It's kind of one of those. Are we as a competitor? Are you that afraid of USC ruining your season 1 year because you needed that one extra win to find yourself in a college football playoff? But also, you're gonna face teams with the likes of USC, and you're already going through the gauntlet of the Big Ten. And I mean, don't take the easy way out. Come on, man. It's a rivalry. It's for some people, it's appointment television. Of course, if you've grown up a USC or a Notre Dame fan, you're used to having this matchup. And I think that stop being scared. That's all it really comes down to. It's man, you can find a way because you're gonna get the money, whether it's on Peacock or ESPN or Big Ten Network, whatever, Fox. To me, you're gonna get the money and the eyeballs because of your program's tradition and standard. Why not keep this thing going? Because to me, if you lose to them 1 year, it's part of the rivalry. This comes with it. I just think that at some point you got to stop making money decisions and truly look at, hey, if we are as good as I think we are, line up whoever in front of us. We could care less. But
think about what a win in that kind of game would do for your on the other side, right? If you win that game, it's going to give you a big boost. But yeah, that's just it is what it is. And I understand people are still trying to figure out how things are going to work with the playoff. I understand that's part of the discussion with the SEC. And do we move to 9 conference games? Because do you want to make your path more difficult if you're not guaranteed that the committee is going to respect that and give you bonus points or credit or whatever for strength of schedule and things like that? So I understand where they're coming from, but this is why we need transparency and we need consistency from the College Football Playoff Committee because they are the ones causing a lot of these issues. I know the programs and universities are making the decisions, but it's because, let's be honest, we've had pretty crappy College Football Playoff Committees up to this point, and no one knows what they're going to do or say any given week, and they don't really have a clear path or a clear, guidelines for how they make their rankings. And that's a bigger problem that we'll have to deal with again this football season. But for now, USC, Notre Dame potentially going away after maybe this season, maybe next season. But it looks like in the near future that is going to be going away. So if you are now just joining us, we are going to do our Mount Rushmore of the day. It's going to be the Oklahoma Sooners. We will have that coming up for you in a matter of minutes. But first, do want to take a little bit of time to look at some of these college football quarterback tiers. So we're not going to go through all of them because there's 136 programs here. But we're going to hit the ones at the top, and then we'll tell you where Alabama, where Auburn, where UAB stand, where we kind of, how they stack up compared to the rest of the country. All right, Damian. So at the top, you're going to have your top 5, right? These are, again, not individual quarterbacks, but quarterback rooms, right? Essentially. So which programs have the best quarterback situation overall, not only for this year, but for the immediate future as well. So at the top, you have 5 schools. You have Clemson with Cade Klubnik and Christopher Vizina. Then at LSU, you have Garrett Nussmeier with Michael Van Buren Jr., who transferred over from Mississippi State. At number 3, you have Oklahoma with John Mateer, Michael Hawkins Jr., Whit Neubauer. Then you have Penn State with Drew Aller and Ethan Grunkemeyer. And then you have South Carolina with Lenora Sellers and Air Nolan. So according to David Hale and ESPN, Clemson, LSU, Oklahoma, Penn State, and South Carolina have the best quarterback situations in college football. David, do you have any problems with those 5?
Not necessarily a problem. I think it's just kind of a matter of just personal preference, I don't look at Drew Aller as one of those guys. Now, he's returning, but a lot of it is just not – a lot of Penn State's success I never really attributed to what Drew Aller did. I think it was more of the run game that took the pressure off him. And granted, he made throws, but also I remember Notre Dame. I remember the last time I saw Drew Aller play in a football game, and it's he's making some mistakes that you just can't have as a quarterback. I know what happened last year. I know what happened a couple years ago when he does have the pieces around him. I would have put Miami instead of Penn State because I do think with Carson Beck returning, and granted, I know with Cam Ward leaving, it's kind of, if he doesn't play to this level, Miami won't have any success. But when I think of just individual talent between Drew Aller and Carson Beck, I give Carson Beck a little bit of a lead in that situation. Not to say that Drew Aller is just awful. I just think for Carson Beck, he was in the biggest of moments. Again, the first half of Alabama, it changes everything. But for the most part, whenever he had to stand up in the pocket, like you look against the game against Tennessee where he had to carve some people up, he did that. I would only have an issue probably with just Penn State's quarterback room. I just swapped them out with Miami.
Yeah, no, I don't. I certainly don't hate that. And they do have that was, again, what we just went through. That was tier 1, but now you have tier 1B, so like one step below that for this list, and that would be Miami, like you were saying, Damian, Florida, and Texas. So obviously DJ Lagway, Arch Manning in there. And so, yeah, so that kind of makes sense because those are guys that it's a little more of maybe a little bit more of a question mark with two guys that are the full-time starters for the first time, and then Carson Beck coming back from injury. But, yeah, I don't really have much of a problem there. Now we're going to have to go down a little bit because we're going to go, let's see where Alabama is, Damian. So we have tier 2, which they are not in. That is the pretty darn good tier. We have tier 3. That's the buckle up tier. Nope, don't see any Alabama or Auburn quarterbacks there. Tier 4, the young pups. Nope, don't qualify for that one yet. Deuce Knight and Keelan Russell, maybe next year. Tier 5, the waiting is the hardest part. This is where we find a number of SEC schools, including the Alabama Crimson Tide. So in Tier 5, there's Alabama, Georgia, and Ole Miss. And the general idea there is you have Ty Simpson, Gunnar Stockton, and Austin Simmons are all guys that have been a part of these programs for multiple seasons. They've waited their turn, and now the belief is that they have finally earned the opportunity to lead their programs. And so we just haven't seen a ton of them, right? We believe the upside's there. We know what how they were viewed as prospects coming out of high school, but we still just haven't had to see because we've had to wait. And so that's what makes those kind of more difficult to decipher. So they have Alabama in a Tier 5 quarterback situation in the same category as Georgia and Ole Miss. Now we're going to keep scrolling down. We have Tier 6, second time's the charm. You might think that's where you would find Jackson Arnold, but it is not. That is where you find Dylan Raiola at Nebraska, Marcel Reed at Texas A&M, and Jacob Zeno, former UAB Blazer. It's also where you have Nico at UCLA. But we have to keep going. You have consistently consistent. That's Tier 7. That's where you have your USC, Michigan State, Indiana, BYU. Let's keep going. Tier 8, fresh starts, veteran edition. This is where we find the Auburn Tigers, as Jackson Arnold and Ashton Daniels both fit into this category. So they have Auburn's quarterback situation in the same grouping as Florida State, Houston, and Northwestern. Ugh. I feel like Auburn probably could have been bumped up to the tier we were just talking about the second chances. I feel like maybe that one. I feel like Jackson Arnold is significantly closer, or Auburn's quarterback situation is significantly closer to a Texas A&M or a Kansas State or a Nebraska than it is a Northwestern.
I agree with you 100%. And again, I think I get it, change of scenery, but again, when you go back and truly look at what Jackson Arnold was at Oklahoma, especially last season, it wasn't as bad as we truly thought. Because, again, he has some monumental wins. I think when you look at some of the inconsistencies, a lot of it was just, again, his receiver room was absolutely depleted by week 3. Mm-hmm. Like, it looked completely different than it did to start the season. And he had to overcome some adversity that was more mental than it was truly physical, because nobody ever questioned the talent because you looked at what he did to Alabama. Maybe the system was just a little off, but I think, a fresh start in Auburn, the pieces that you have around you are going to be better. I guess I just have more optimism I'm with you. I think you're a lot closer to the returning Dylan Raiola, the returning Marcel Reeds of the world than you are to, Northwestern. No offense to Northwestern, but
Yeah, no, I'm glad we're on the same page with that one, as I'm sure Don is as well. All right, and then we'll wrap up here. Lastly, we did mention UAB, and so I'll just cut to the chase. You have to keep scrolling a little bit. So tier 19, the it could be worse tier. That's where you find the UAB Blazers with Jalen Kitna and Ryder Burton. So they're down there, and to be fair, a lot of these are just below. Like you had the best group of 5 quarterbacks, and that was like tier 16, right? And so you're just kind of going down through the group of 5 schools at this point, or group of 6, sorry. But yeah, so that's where you have UAB there in tier 19 as far as the quarterback situations go. That is out of 20 total tiers. You have Auburn there at tier 8, Alabama at number 5, and then you have at the top your South Carolinas, Clemson's, Penn States of the world. So just an interesting breakdown of how they kind of see not only this year for the quarterback position, but moving forward over the next couple of years, as there is a lot of young talent in this league, as we know, and a lot of guys that we won't get to see probably until 2026, but a bright future for Alabama, Auburn, and a number of other schools here in the SEC. So that'll do it for our SEC or college football quarterback tiers conversation, but now we have to get to our Mount Rushmore conversation. So we're going to take a quick break, come back on the other side. Oklahoma, Mount Rushmore. I'll give mine. Damian will share his, and then we will get yours at 205-834-9450. That's how you text in on the Courtesy GMC text line. Many of you already doing so. Keep them coming. We share our Oklahoma Mount Rushmores when we return on the other side. JOX 94.5. 6:36, you're listening to Morning JOX here on JOX 94.5. Conrad Van Order, Damian Mitchell with you until 7 o'clock when we hand you off to McElroy and Kublick in the morning. About to dive into our latest edition of SEC Mount Rushmores today. One of the new members of our conference here, the Oklahoma Sooners. A lot to pick from. A lot of you already sitting in your Mount Rushmores. You can still do so, 205-834-9450, but I'm seeing a lot of different names already here this morning, and that's why we like to do this, because we say there's no wrong answer. I guess technically there is, but so far y'all are great. Y'all are very intelligent college football fans, and y'all send in great lists every day, so we like reading them, and we will do that momentarily after we share ours. So starting off with the Oklahoma Mount Rushmore, again, just saying this each and every day, I will go ahead and say my honorable mentions, and this first one, again, I never saw him with my own 2 eyes, so he's an honorable mention, but I've seen the documentary, I've seen enough highlights, it's the Boz. I mean, I think most people would have Brian Bosworth on their list, so I have him as an honorable mention again, was before our time, Damian, but you can't think of Oklahoma without thinking about the Boz, and not only the player he was, but the personality he was off the field and on the field. Yeah. So honorable mentions, Brian Bosworth, CeeDee Lamb, Gerald McCoy, and Sam Bradford. So those are my honorable mentions. So now we'll get to the final 4 for me. So we will start off at the top. The first player I had on my Mount Rushmore is none other than all day Adrian Peterson.
Yes, sir.
One of the greatest running backs of all time. I would say for our lifetime, probably the greatest running back that we've seen, and just such an electric player during his time in Oklahoma. So I go Adrian Peterson at number 1. I would then have Baker Mayfield on there as well. Look, love him or hate him, you can't deny the impact that he had. He won a Heisman Trophy. His story as a walk-on and his whole career path that he had, and ultimately getting to Oklahoma and leading them to college football playoff appearance and everything he did on the field. Baker Mayfield, absolutely incredible. I think he's better than Sam Bradford personally. Then I'm going to go with Roy Williams, one of the hardest-hitting safeties in, I guess, since the 2000s, really, in the world of college football. That dude was an absolute monster. What was the saying? It was something like 2/3 of the, or it was something like, I forgot what it was. Like 2/3 of the earth is covered by the ocean. The rest of it's covered by Roy Williams, something like that. Just an absolute dog. there on the defensive side in the backfield there at the safety position for the Sooners. And then finally, again, this is about what they did at Oklahoma. Ryan Broyles.
Thank you.
Ryan Broyles.
Thank you.
If you don't know, I know you know the name. This man has the third most receiving yards in college football history. The history of the sport, the third most. Just an absolutely remarkable career. Over 1,000 yards his last 3 years, double-digit touchdowns his last 3 years, every single season at Oklahoma. No, he's no CeeDee Lamb. He's no Hollywood Brown. I guess from just a natural talent standpoint, Damian, absolute dog out there.
1,000%.
So that's my Mount Rushmore. Adrian Peterson, Baker Mayfield, Roy Williams, Ryan Broyles. Damian, what's your list?
We are very close.
Okay.
We are very close. And I'll start mine off the same way you did. Adrian Peterson. No ands, ifs, or buts about it. I agree with you 100%. One of the best, if not the best running back I've witnessed with my own two eyes. No, I didn't get a chance to watch Barry Sanders. Didn't get a chance to watch, Bo Jackson in his prime when he was at Auburn. No. But when I look at what he did in Oklahoma and what he did in the NFL, I hadn't seen one better. Now, there's some, Derrick Henry has entered the conversation.
He's still not there yet. No.
Exactly. So Adrian Peterson is there as well for me. I also have Baker Mayfield. Just what he did, a guy came in as a walk-on at Texas Tech, transfers to Oklahoma, wins a Heisman, if he had a defense while he was there at Oklahoma, we could be having a real conversation of Baker Mayfield being one of the most accomplished quarterbacks to have ever played in college football. Even with the Heisman, he's still one of those. And what he did in Oklahoma uniform.
Played in one of the best games I've ever seen, too, in that Georgia game in the college football playoff. All-timer.
I also have Ryan Broyles in mind as well.
Sir.
Yeah, I thought, got to give some receivers some love.
Do you think you're going to catch me slipping on that one a little bit?
I did. I did. I thought you were going to go with the D.D. West route or CeeDee Lamb. But no, Ryan Broyles, 85.
D.D. Westbrook.
Yeah, and he's definitely in that conversation. And the last time we saw Oklahoma win a national championship, they had a quarterback who was left-handed. Who also coaches in the SEC right now. Yes, my discipleship runs deep. I have Josh Heupel in my Mount Rushmore.
You knew it was coming.
You knew it did. You knew it was. And I agree with you that, he finished second in the Heisman Trophy. Yeah, Jason White got one. Sam Bradford got one. But when you think of just overall accomplishments and what you play the game for, I also saw Sam Bradford in a national championship end up losing. Jason White played in a national championship, end up losing.
Good point.
There's one that didn't win the Heisman, but he got the national championship, and that would be one Josh Heupel. So my Mount Rushmore looks like this. Adrian Peterson, Baker Mayfield, Ryan Broyles, and Josh Heupel. Honorable mention to Gerald McCoy. Samaje Perine.
That's a good one. Yep.
Oklahoma's all-time leader.
Yep.
And also got to give – a lot of it has to do with what he did what he's done in the NFL, but he's an absolute dog. Trent Williams.
Okay, yep, that's an excellent one. I definitely forgot him off my list. But yeah, one of the best offensive linemen of the last 20 years or so. So those are our Mount Rushmores. You can still send yours in, 205-834-9450. A lot of yours coming in. We're going to take another break, come back, put a bow on the show, and read your Oklahoma Mount Rushmores, react to what you think or who you think the four greatest Oklahoma Sooners of all time are. You're listening to Morning JOX on JOX 94.5.
.648 here on Morning JOX, JOX 94.5. Damian Mitchell, Conrad Van Order, here with you. Get your reaction to the Oklahoma Sooners Mount Rushmore. Getting yourself from McElroy and Kublik in the morning, coming up at 7 o'clock. But let me tell you about our friends at Blue Chew. It's an online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, Levitra, and Staxin in chewable form and at a fraction of the cost. Blue Chew's tablets are performance enhancing for the bedroom. It can help men gain extra confidence when it's time to perform. Like I said, it's an online prescription service, so you don't have to worry about going to the doctor. No awkward conversations, no waiting in line at the pharmacy, because it ships right to your door in discreet packaging. Let Blue Chew's licensed medical providers work with you to find the right ingredient and strength for your prescription. Let me hook you up for the free. Free, that spells free. Go to BlueChew.com and get your first month free when you use our promo code JOX at checkout. The only thing you have to pay for is the $5 shipping. You have to go to BlueChew.com, promo code JOX, that's JOX, to receive your first month free. And like I tell you every single morning, just chew it and do it.
All right, getting to your Oklahoma Mount Rushmores that y'all have texted in at 205-834-9450. They're on the courtesy GMC text line. Quick reminder, SEC baseball tournament starts in just under 3 hours. Alabama, Missouri, the first game there at 9:30 at the Hoover Met. We will keep you up to date on everything going on in Hoover on all the shows here on JOX throughout the week. But now we head to Mount Rushmore, where Luke chimes in from North Carolina. He has his Oklahoma Mount Rushmore. He's going Sam Bradford, Adrian Peterson, Baker Mayfield, and the Boz.
Hey.
Can't argue with that one, Luke. That's about as solid as they come. Dave, he chimes in. He goes the Boz, Josh Heupel, Gerald McCoy, and Sam Bradford.
Let's go.
Another good list there. Jamari from Talladega, he chimes in. He says, honorable mentions for me, Jalen Hurts and Kyler Murray. Jalen Hurts is an Alabama quarterback, but I understand I understand your confusion, Jamari.
Hey.
Well, he's a Super Bowl winner, so he's an Alabama quarterback. When he lost the Super Bowl a couple years ago, he was an Oklahoma quarterback. Yeah, so for now, he's an Alabama quarterback. But those are his honorable mentions. But his Mount Rushmore, he goes CeeDee Lamb, Baker Mayfield, Mark Andrews, and DeMarco Murray.
DeMarco Murray, former Tennessee Titan. That's, well,
the bane of Derrick Henry's existence for 2 seasons, right?
Yeah, then we shipped him off to Dallas and was like, nah, no, he went to the Eagles after that.
I was going to say, he came from Dallas, didn't he? And then he went to the Eagles.
Stole all that money.
Yeah. He
and
certainly did.
The touches from Derrick Henry.
He certainly did. Let's see. Joseph chimes in. He goes Oklahoma, Mount Rushmore, Adrian Peterson, the Boz, Billy Sims, and Baker. All right. I like that list. He says, do you think the traveling aspect is playing a part in USC joining the Big Ten of why they don't want to play the Notre Dame game? And I think that's part of it as well. But I would say just play Indiana and Notre Dame back to back, right? Just stay in this, just saying, just an idea. Also, I'm sorry, it's USC. I feel like they're probably okay financially.
They'll be all right.
Anyways, that's just my 2 cents real quick. Eric in Adamsville, he chimes in. He goes, Adrian Peterson, DeMarco Murray, CeeDee Lamb, Kyler Murray, honorable mentions for him, the Boz, Darrell Royal, Josh Heupel, and Roy Williams. All right. Let's see. Somebody chiming in, they say USC is soft just like the rest of the world. Okay. And they also go for their Mount Rushmore. Billy Sims, the Boz, Adrian Peterson, and Sam Bradford. Honorable mentions for Teddy Lehman and Roy Williams. All right.
Okay.
Let's see. Our buddy Bennett from Beham, he chimes in. He goes Baker, Kyler Murray, CeeDee Lamb, and Adrian Peterson. He also says, today is my last day of school. Well, congratulations, Bennett.
Enjoy
we look
yourself,
forward to you weighing in throughout the summer. Let's see. Somebody says... this might be a conversation we get into tomorrow. Someone says, who are your top 10 SEC quarterbacks this year? I don't see Ty Simpson as a top 10 QB in the conference. Maybe we can dive into that a little bit tomorrow. We don't have time today, but that's a good question there. Let's see. Cliff and Pelham, he says Adrian Peterson, the Boz, Marcus Dupree, and Heupel. All right.
Yeah, I remember Marcus Dupree. I remember the 30 for 30. Didn't get a chance to see him play, but
yeah,
I have seen the tape.
We've seen the tape. Let's see. Thomas, he goes Heupel, Brian Bosworth, CeeDee Lamb, Baker Mayfield. Let's see. Somebody else chiming in. They go Adrian Peterson, Keith Jackson, the Boz, and Billy Sims. All right. Alan says, does Jalen Hurts count here?
Yes.
I'm biased, so I said no, but I think realistically, yes. I mean, if I'm being honest, yes, he would count.
He counts.
He played there. Let's see. Someone else goes Keith Jackson, Brian Bosworth, Adrian Peterson, Baker Mayfield. Rusty chimes in. He says Boomer Sooner. He's got old school and new school Mount Rushmore's old school Billy Sims, Leroy Selman, Steve Owens, the Boz, honorable mention Keith Jackson. New school, he goes AP, Josh Heupel, Mark Andrews, Tommy Harris, and he also shouts out CeeDee Lamb, DeMarco Murray, Baker Mayfield, and Trent Williams.
I like how Josh Heupel is in the new school.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, I'll count it. Let's see. Someone else chiming in. They go Baker, Adrian Peterson, Samaje Perine, and Trent Williams. They say Samaje didn't get his love because Amir Abdullah broke his record in the same day.
Oh, boy.
Amir Abdullah, dude, he was good in college.
He was. Resident of Homewood.
Let's see. Don, he chimes in. He says Barry Switzer, Josh Heupel, Greg Pruitt, and Leroy Selman would be his Oklahoma Mount Rushmore.
That's a throwback.
Yeah, he also says prayers up for Larry, the Feinbaum caller, and his family going through some issues. Prayers up for Larry and his family. Our buddy Lewis, who chimes in bright and early. Sorry, Lewis, you chimed in again, so you got pushed down the line a little bit. But he went Baker Mayfield, Adrian Peterson, Brian Bosworth. He says Jalen Hurts because he was much better at Oklahoma than at Alabama.
That's how you choose to remember.
Let's see. Lewis says, I'm an Alabama fan, so I put a Bama guy on my list just like Damian put a Tennessee guy on his list. Just saying.
He's the coach of Tennessee. He played at Oklahoma.
But you're still a fan of him.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But nobody said I was a Tennessee fan.
Well, you definitely have in the past.
Said I was a Tennessee fan, or I said I was a Josh Heupel fan?
I'm sure we can find some clips. I'm sure Saber has something saved for us. Let's see. We have somebody, they chime in. They go CeeDee Lamb, Lane Johnson, Baker Mayfield, Adrian Peterson, and then honorable mention Sam Bradford.
Okay.
Let's see. Steven chimes in. He says, talking about the baseball term, he says, see, Damien, I told you how we do it at LSU when you declared your fandom as a free agent. We do have the most fun.
That is true.
Making the case there. And then Gavin, he chimes in, the last one. Adrian Peterson, Baker Mayfield, DeMarco Murray, and Gerald McCoy for his Oklahoma Mount Rushmore. Yet again, appreciate all of you sending those in. Y'all blow us away each and every morning. Tomorrow, we're going to be back at it. I think tomorrow, Damien, we're going to do the South Carolina Gamecocks.
The Cox, baby.
We'll keep it rolling tomorrow. South Carolina, we're back here at 6 a.m. SEC Baseball Tournament coming up. McElroy and Kublik, they're next.